Buddha said it very simple. In his 4 line, he said, do not do evil actions. Do positive virtue actions. Tame our mind. That is Buddha Dharma. So, when you talk about Buddhism, many people of us, what happens is we try to judge by um, the culture, colorfulness, or simplicities, or people's actions, and a lot of things we very much usually we do is we take a choice by what we really like, and that usually is very good, but sometimes affects your understanding of the Buddha Dharma. So I really feel that you really want to know about the Buddha Dharma, just contemplate and try to understand what Buddha actually said. So basically, you really want to sort of understand what does actually mean non-virtue or a negative act. Buddha talked about a lot of the negative acts, and that is very similar compared with other religions and all these things. But basically, Buddha actually talk about it, the causes of negative act. The causes of negative act that many of us we usually don't understand is the blind spot, the ignorance. That is actually we are not so much into understandable level. So the Buddha actually say you do not do evil deeds. Okay, what is the evil deeds? Do not harm other people, do not kill, do not steal. All these things actually we have sort of familiar. But Buddha never stops there. Buddha actually go further than that, saying that they are actually created by, we actually say, negative emotions. Negative emotions is actually very much of attachment and ignorance and very judgments, very many judgments. These three things usually are very much active in negative emotions. So for example, when you're really angry with somebody, that you have some kind of attachment towards that anger. At the same time you have a blind spot. You do not see how much farther you actually can become through action, through the anger. At the same time, you have so many judgments, so many thoughts going into your mind. So bottom line, that kind of cause of that negative act, negative emotions. But then much deeper than this, you can look at carefully that we are usually not talk about it. It's actually ego clinging. So Buddha actually said, you really want to know Dharma, first you need to know about your action, your motivation of your action, kind of, for example, like negative emotions. And negative emotion is actually act by who? Who's really involved in this negative emotion? Who's really involved? Is basically is I. Lot of judgment, lot of things is holding, attachment, ignorance, and judgments. The three combined become very actively. Then you have very much involved ego into the negative emotion. That is the main cause. So actually, I really wanted to say everybody is stupid. Alright? You are all crazy, you are stupid, you full of blind spots. You're thinking you're searching for Dharma, you really don't get anything what you're really wanting to get. Why? Very simple reason. Is you not really try to understand the Dharma, you try to understand something that you're creating illusion towards yourself, like a delusion, totally completely delusion, creating yourself. Honestly speaking, it's like that. So that basically Buddhism is what? Many people say, oh, the religions is very bad. Religions is bad. Rituals is bad. Colorful things is bad. Simplicity is very important. Traditional people says simplicity is not real the thing. Oh, you should be very colorful. You should have a lot of sounds, lot of musics, lot of ritual practice. That is the real Buddhism. What is real Buddhism? It just become a more complicated. What you really need to get is a very simple thing. Whether you practice a ritual, who does love to practice ritual, or who really want to practice meditation by very simple sitting, or you really want to think about it, want to know deep down Buddhist teaching and Buddhist philosophy. Bottom line, what you really need to understand is all three of these different level of Buddhist teachings, practices are talking about same thing. Do not do any evil deeds. Do not create any kind of non-virtue act by negative emotions. Try to find out what is the cause of negative emotions. So, because of that reason, you really can understand the core of the Buddhism. Wherever you enter, any different levels, really does not really matter, because the core is the pure is the core. So that is the real Buddhist teachings. Is how to practice, that is very important. It's depend on yourself. Non-virtue act. We spend a lot of time to do things, practice chanting, prayers, this and that. But do you really want to start a Buddhism teaching? The Buddhist teachings, Buddha actually says you should be very sincere to yourself. That means don't try to hide from within yourself. When you have attachment, try to see it. When you have anger, try to see it. Whether you are ignorant, try to see it. We try to hide ourselves form of practitioner, form of interest in Buddhism. Fashion, Buddhist is nice. It's very interesting to practice as a fashion. LY bags, fashionable bags. Buddhism is very fashionable bags. So just carry on. You want to be like that? It's not the real core Buddhist teachings to how to act, how to practice. So, try to find out yourself first, sincereness, emotions, the causes of emotions, the ego clingings. Then you can see the changes. Oh, positive actions. And motivations level. Nowadays, many of us, what we really do, very simple. Some of us spend a lot of time to understand the Buddhist teaching. You have full understanding of the Buddhist teaching, but you don't have non-understanding of yourself. Some of us, we have very much of into practice, different level of practices, meditations, ritual practices, chanting mantras, visualizings, different kind of level of practices you do, but you don't really know what is the core of the purpose of this practice. What is the core of the Buddhist teaching? What is the purpose of the practice? You don't know so much. The real purpose. Some of us, we do practice, we do study very nicely, very understandably, but problem is you cannot start taming yourself. We do accept saying that, oh yes, really, I have this kind of problem. Yes, I know, I need to practice. But actually, what happens is nowadays, we really do not see gradually improving, or we are gradually decreasing of your practice. Many of us, we don't see that. So this kind of things I see nowadays a lot. I've been some of them in myself experience. So the Buddhist teachings is something that what you should do. You should do all the things as what traditional paths are. But before into that path, you need to understand Buddha's teaching actually are very simple. Virtue, action, non-virtue action, negative and ego clinging, taming that. And some people says Buddha's teaching is most of the time individually thing. It's so selfish. Some people think like that. Or some people ask this kind of questions. It's not as selfish, I want to tell. Reason behind is when you really cannot start changing yourself from negative personality, a person, to positive personality or the person, then you cannot change many things in your surrounding family members and friends. So it's not actually a very much of narrow and ego killing kind of thing. It's very much of, to begin with yourself. Some they say, oh, Buddha's teaching is not for society. It's not for the country practitioners. It's not for the society. It's just for yourself. It's good for individually seeking, but it's not for the society. I don't think so. You need a separate. For example, first of all, I don't think so. You need a separate practice for society and not an individual. Individual practice is a positively. For example, you have a good act, you have a good motivation, you have a tame mind. You follow whole 10 people follow the same purpose, same teaching, same path. That society is a harmony. The 10 group people who follow that become 100 people. The villages become a correct village. Now that 100 people become 1,000 people, become a small town, become right now a virtue town. Now you have 50,000 followers. The same people, they really follow that. No negative action, no negative, motivation, totally taming the mind action. Whole city become a virtue and whole country become virtue. You need to start from the 1 to 10, not to 10 to 1. City become by who? City actually become from town. Town become village. Village becoming from people, some people are group. So because of that reason, you really need to start taming, first of all, I need to say. But actually, Buddha teaching that is not only about individually. Buddha talk about whole society, nations, country, humanity, all sentient beings, how to be act. Buddha actually said. But I want to tell you something. I want to make some clarifying. People think Buddha is God. No, Buddha is not actually as a God, like a creator. Buddha is our teacher. What teacher? He actually realized the truth of all the phenomena, what they are actually function are, what is actually action and reaction, what is actually truth, natural of all the phenomena. That's why Buddha realized, Buddha become enlightened. Then he taught that's why we try to follow his footsteps and his realizations. First, I want to clarify this. Now, secondly, I say Buddha's teachings, the Dharma, is not actually created by Buddha. The Dharma is a naturalness of all the phenomena. You have a cause and condition, the result is there. You have a right hand, because of right hand, you need to depend something to be right, so you have a left hand. That is a natural. You have existent, something to be all the forms, then you have non-existent, that you don't have no form. Everything is interdependent. Cause and effect, right and left, everything is interdependent. That is not Buddha creation. Buddha said, I realize that this is the reality, truth of the world. He actually tried to explain that. But the sentient beings, we cannot overcome our emotions. That's why Buddha says, yes, the first emotion, you need to understand. All the negative physical action, negative verbal action, they begin from negative mind. So Buddha says, try to understand the negative mind. How he described? He says, first, pride. We know what this means, pride. Look yourself higher, better than somebody. Number second, we say jealousy. Jealousy, we know. Somebody have somebody a little better than you. You don't like it. You irritate it. You don't feel comfortable with that. That is jealousy. What is anger? Anger is very simple. You don't like somebody's action. That is anger. That brings up what? Hatred. Hatred becomes what? Really dramatic action. Voice is very loud. Actions is, facial is very much of negative, very much of unpleasant. That is the results. So that is anger. Attachment is what? Something you really have, you're really happy with that. Something you don't have it, you're really wanting to have it. But the problem is when you lose that, when you lose what you have, or what you're wanting to get, you don't get it. You feel very painful, very pain, very suffering, very unhappy. But all of this negative emotion, there are one negative things that we don't usually talk about in other normal life. In the Buddhist teaching, they says ignorant. I use the word very simplified. I use called blind spot of your own emotion. I have a friend, he's a very short temper, and he knows that. And I told this story, some students. He went to very expensive, like spa to clarify their physical toxins and mentally toxins, all these kind of things. When he come back, very nice, we become very fair, very nice. He come down, he sit down there, then he talk to me, Rinpoche, how are you? I'm fine. I said like this. Then my small monks brought a tea and give to him. Then a monk did little bit problem, he pour in his leg. Then he say, oh monk, hey, you don't have no eye? Hey, like that. I told him that moment, oh my friend, what is that? He said to me, yes, Rinpoche, become so quiet, so nice, so humble. That is a blind spot. The spot is you don't see yourself action. You can see being not mindful. But mindfulness is one step. But you want to take a little bit further than mindfulness. It's sincereness and accepting what is wrong with you. Not just by acting, saying, yes, I have this problem, but not much further than that. You really want to accept, you say, yes, sincereness from the bottom, yes, I see this problem. I know that I have that kind of wrong problem, bad problem. So I'm going to change that attitude, that mind, that emotion. That is Buddhist way. That is the Buddhist teachings actually teach. So I actually told, some people says, oh, Buddhism is way of life. Buddhism is a religion. Some people say Buddhism is science. Some people told Buddhism is very stupid. Some people say Buddhism is a very, very nice, very smart, very intelligent way. Whatever you want to call, you can call. Honestly speaking, Buddhist teaching is universal. Universal means what? Whatever you think, you can think about Buddhism. I really think like this. Some people say it's science. Yes, it's science. Some people say it's a way of life. Oh yes, it's a way of life. Some people say it's a religion. Yes, it's a religion. Some people say it's how you say it's very smart way of, yeah, it's smart. Some people say it's very stupid. Okay, it's stupid. It's no effect to the Buddhist teachings. Reason behind is Buddhist teaching is universal, means Buddhist teaching can actually, when you are a person who's listening, when you are a heart is open, when your mind are open, you can accept Buddhism teaching. No matter whatever background you're from, no matter what religion you're from, no matter you don't have no beliefs, you can accept the Buddhist teachings. Why? Buddha talk about Dharma. It's common sense. It's nothing about uncommon sense. It's actually talking about very common level of Buddhist teachings. But Buddha teaching is much deeper than that. I like to say Buddha's teaching deep down is not a way of life, is not a science, is not a philosophy, is not a perfect, is not imperfect. Buddha's teaching, the core, is beyond all this. So that is the Buddha's teaching. But to simplify, Buddha said, do not do any wrong actions that harms others, makes other people sad, suffering, make yourself guilt, regret. Do good actions, makes other people joy and happy, and yourself feel much more content and happiness. But the Buddha said, tame your own mind from all this negativity, emotions, and most important, tame from your mind the clinging towards yourself. Try to tame the mind blind spots. That, Buddha said, that is my Dharma. He says, do not do evil, do good, tame your mind. That is Buddha Dharma. So that is a simplify of Buddha's introduction of the Buddhism. But people really want to learn Buddhism, you need to begin learning of Full Noble Truth. Full Noble Truth, I just want to just say a name. Suffering, cause of suffering, the freedom of suffering in cause of suffering, cessation, and the path how to be achieve the freedom. This is the basic Buddhist teachings of the Four Noble Truths that he actually taught on the first wheel of Dharma, first teaching he gave. So that is very important to understand. Then you really want to know deeper down. Some people says, why I'm here? What is the purpose to be here? Some people says like that. I like to answer on that. Why we are here? Because we have emotion clinging, ego clinging. That's why we are here in the earth. What is our purpose? It depends on you. The purpose is. You have a negative emotion, your purpose will suffer. You have a positive mind, your purpose is happiness. In the Buddhist term, the purpose of being here is you can change the purpose in your hand. Why I'm here? Because your ego clinging. What is ego clinging? People say, I don't have no ego clinging. Sometimes I think like this. I don't have no ego clinging. Then I imagine myself, sometimes say, oh, Phakchok Rinpoche, you are really bad man. You are how you say, bullshit person. I say like that. I imagine somebody telling me like that. I feel so unhappy. Few thoughts rise in the mind saying, oh yes, true, I'm very, very unhappy now. That is ego clinging. Do you think you don't have no ego clinging? That is the blind spot. That is proof is you have ego clinging. That's why you are here. Purpose, you can change. You have negative emotion for suffer. You have positive emotion to be enjoyed. You really have the better path of enlightenment, your purpose for enlightenment. This is how I'm going to answer this kind of people. But you want to know much deeper on that, you should study the 12 dependent origination. Why we are here. 12 dependent origination. Why we have old age. Why we have suffering now, the physical body suffering and the mental suffering, old age, because we born. Why we born, rebirth, because we beginning in the samsara. Why in the beginning samsara? Because we have attachment. So when you go back, like 12 dependent origination, keep in your mind, write down. If you have time, you should study. Right now is not my time to teach the 12 dependent originations, but I just want to tell you that is very important to understand, because that is the unique part of the Buddha's teaching. So 4 Noble Truths and 12 dependent origination is very important to study. And somebody, my friend, he asked me, oh Rinpoche, why this nowadays a lot in the world, included, third world and first world and the developing countries, they have so much of negative mental illnesses, and what is the causes of that? Then I actually just say very, very randomly, very simplify. I said, it's too much thinking about yourself. And he's very, very much surprised. He says, nowadays they done research and they find actually who has depressed and who is in the depressed and who is in the beginning of depressed. They actually talk about me a lot, 4 times more in the normal people, and it was very interesting. They actually this all this is that he told me that nowadays they who have depressed, they actually think about themselves a lot. But it's not really new for us, for me, because the enlightened Buddha actually said the causes of all this suffering is ego clinging. Ego clinging means clinging to yourself. So, you really want to know the Dharma well. You really want to reduce your mentally pain and suffering. You really want to know the ultimate Buddha's teaching. Try to understand what does really mean emptiness or selflessness. That's going to be actually taught by it. How to say? I can talk to other sessions. But most important part, you really need to understand the selflessness and emptiness. Again, sincereness. Oh. So this is sort of basically introducing the Buddhist teaching, just the idea of the Buddha's teachings, But I want to tell you, the Buddha's teaching is not like just a simplify, simple things, just put into simple words. Just make you understand the collection of the Buddha's teachings, the word that we have, that he taught to the public that time, or the private Buddha's teachings, the private and public both, the secretly Buddha's teachings, all together 140 volumes, 42 volumes. It exists. So it's a very large collections of the Buddha's teachings, first of all. The second of all, why there's so many volumes of Buddha's teaching? Why there are so many of this kind of way of Buddha's teaching? The reason behind is every sentient beings, our way of thinking, capability, the vessels are different. So that's why Buddha's teachings actually taught constantly with the students to change their own characters, to know their own vessels, and to understand the levels. That's why Buddha's teachings are different ways. But generally, you want to put in simplify. Buddha actually taught 3 different levels. In the beginning, Buddha taught Four Noble Truths. We usually say first turning wheel of Dharma. The second, Buddha elaborated on emptiness and 6 paramitas and emptiness. And that is actually called second turning wheel of Dharma. The third one, Buddha actually talked about wisdom, the Buddha natural, the Tathagata Garbha, the Buddha natural, and the wisdom. And that is taught in third turning wheel of Dharma. So we all understand that is the 3 big caskets of different time of Buddha teachings are. So this is a very simple way of introducing Buddhist teachings about religion, about Buddha is God or not, what is really Buddhist teaching is, they are just simplify, just overview, simplify teaching, and what is actually you really need to understand from the Buddhist teaching. I want to end in the one certainly that many of us, we usually judge by what we really want. I like this and this is real, this is truth, and I don't like this because of that, and this is not true. I don't think so you should do that way. The most important, what kind of motivation you need is, what is the real truth Buddhist teachings? I just want to do that. Truth means, what is the core Buddhist teachings? How you know? For example, like myself. I put myself in example. What I learned from my teacher. Meditation methods. The meaning of the Buddha naturals. When I look at the Indian scripts over 1,500 years ago, what they wrote is actually basically the same thing. When I look 2,500 years ago, the Buddha scripts, some scholars say they exist or not exist. That I don't care all these things. I just say whatever we have the collection now. When I look at the say 8,000 verse Panchaparamita Sutra. Actually, what my guru taught me is actually what the Panchaparamita in the text, 8,000 verse. Actually, I can see that. That's why I feel so confident, so dignity that 2,500 years ago what Buddha taught, and 1,500 years ago what Indian master taught, and just 20 years ago or 9 years ago what I received is actually exactly the same thing what they actually explain. Sometimes examples are one, two new ones, but sometimes they give the very old ancient examples too. So there's such a beautiful integration of new way of example and giving teachings, but the core of the teachings are same thing. So that's why when I enter the Dharma, I don't go too much of what I wanted, because my teachers say it's not that important what you really wanted. It's important from the beginning and to begin the Dharma, but what you really needed is more important. So that is I usually what I really begin. So that's why I like to remind you, don't judge by what you really wanting to do it, and you start judging and to the things. Judging is usually not usually so good. True, noticing, not to criticize and not to be saying this is right and this is wrong. That is not really gives you any how to say good results. The good result you really get, try to notice this. Oh, this is the really true teachings. I need to accept it. I need to practice this. This is very important. But then I want to remind you, everybody, in the beginning in the Buddha's teaching, Buddha said, don't believe right away in my teaching. Try to investigate my teaching is make valid or not. Valid means is truth or not. Investigate, examine what Buddha said. He gave an example. The goldsmith actually checked the gold. That is a real gold or not. Exactly that way you investigate. But that way it gives you a beginning, a very much approach saying you can ask questions, you can investigate, you can debate, you can do whatever you wanted to get the point to understand. But don't bring that kind of Buddha's quotation into whole your life of practice, because it's going to ruin you. Buddha give you first that things to give you to think the Buddha's teaching is true or not. When you really think it's the truth, makes sense. When you really begin to practice, then all this kind of doubt and question should be not there. You can have a questions, but not doubt, and this kind of how you say deep down non-understanding should be how to clarify. So these things you all should be very understandable. So my introduction to Buddhist teaching is not only talking about Buddhist what Buddha talked about it. I talk about what is actually are, what is actually not, what is actually you should do. This is my introduction to Buddhism. So enjoy your life. Try to get the Buddha's teachings right way. Don't try to stress out learning Buddha Dharma. Just relax. Most important, you need to find a good teacher. And through that, when you have it, try to practice well. Don't go through too much of trouble. And enjoy your life. Sarva Mangalam.